Where would you go? What would you do? And how would you survive? Okay, y'all. Today's topic I want to talk about, or I want to bring awareness to, homelessness. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. I want you to make this your reality, okay? Think about for a moment, what if you got that eviction notice because you couldn't make your rent payment? What if you got that foreclosure notice because you're behind on your mortgage? What if you've hit that point of no return? What would you do? Literally, what would you do? Do you have a plan? So from my own experience, okay, the cost of renting is outrageous. I have heard others in the YouTube community and online talk about how it's actually even cheaper to rent than it is to buy a home. And that is so crazy to me. So just a few months ago, I found myself in this exact situation where I was homeless. In a different sense, but I didn't have a place to go. So I did move back in with my mom, and not many people have that option, but I did have that reality of like, I have nowhere to live. I have nothing. And being homeless and having nothing is a whole new level of fear on its own. So I was living with my mom, and then the next phase was the fear and intimidation of trying to find a place to rent that was affordable. As you can see, I did find a place. And so now I'm tipping my toes into the market of buying a home. I tipped my toe in and then I pulled it back out because of the high dollar signs attached to some of these places. Right now, that market is just so outrageous. I just decided to wait. Sometimes it feels like I'm in a lose-lose situation, and I think many of you can probably relate to that too. But it is important that we come up with a plan, a strategy of that what if scenario. So I have a plan. I have a plan in case I was to get evicted out of here and I didn't have a place to go. I do have a vehicle, so there's that. But I do have a plan for what my kids would do and for what I would do. Yes, I could go back and stay with my mom, but that feels like such a burden that I feel like this other option would be the best choice for me. So with it being in the winter, my plan and my strategy is that I would literally just live in and out of my car. If it was the spring or summer situation of being evicted, then it would be easier to just live out of your car, but find like a camp area and then just rent that space for a week at a time. That seems the best for me. However, my small business would have to come with me. So I've tried to come up with a strategic plan on how I can continue to work at these camp places out of my car to bring in money for myself if this situation or this crisis happened to me again. I know it doesn't sound ideal, but y'all, it happens. Like, we do not know what life is going to hand us from day to day. And I know I focused a lot in the past about food preservation and, storing food and supplies and, preparing and things like that. But since I've been here, and I have shared in previous videos about how I don't plan to stay here, this is not a permanent home for me. I don't want to have a bunch of things to where when it's time for me to go that I have to find a place for all of this stuff. So my thoughts are more of planning for a uprooted crisis situation. Like, what would I do? And I'm hoping that you're getting the message of this video. Like, you can plan and prep and put things away, but I also want you to have a plan. What if you had to go? Where would you go? What would you do? And how would you survive? I also wish that I could encourage you that the economic conditions were going to get better in 2024, but I believe that they're going to get worse every day. Even today, even in this moment that I'm making this video, or even in this moment that you're watching this video, there are people out there that are coming to this reality of we're going to lose our home. We don't have enough food to eat today. We're going to lose our vehicle. I lost my job. This can even happen through, like the divorce rate and all of the things, because life is just getting really hard on people. Now, it is true that some of these people are choosing to live on the streets because they have addictions, because they don't want help, because they choose that life. I'm not talking about these people. I'm talking about the people that are actually really, really, really trying, and they just cannot. And now they're losing things. They're losing their homes. They're losing their families. They're losing possessions. The rising cost of food and just daily living is really hitting people hard. We just can't seem to make it without feeling the pinch from payday to payday. And even for small business owners, because I'm in that category, those that are consumers, that are buying from businesses, if they don't have that extra money, then it really does hit the small businesses hard. Us small businesses are just coming out of Q4, which means it's the fourth quarter and it's the Christmas season, and it's one of the highest, of all the quarters of the year. It is the most highest revenue for many of us. And now that it's coming to an end, and also you notice that people aren't really spending what they've spent in maybe previous years because it's just hard. I gotta read this to you. According to the Wall Street Journal, the number of homeless people in the United States has reached a brand new record high, reaching more than 650,000 people this year. So I was scrolling my phone, reading news articles, and this topic popped up. It caught my attention because in this area that I live in currently, I notice a lot more people are walking up and down the streets with their backpacks, with clothes that you know that they have been wearing for days. Not many here, or a few, but not many people stand on the streets with signs here. There are some that do, but for the most part, they just walk around. So I've had a couple instances here in this house where someone has been banging on my door, and this has happened a couple different times. The first time it was like 11 o'clock, between 11 and midnight ish. It woke me out of my sleep. I did not get up and answer the door. I was pretty much terrified. I was like, it is late and dark, and anybody that knows me would probably text or call me if it was an emergency, right? And so I did not get up and answer the door at that time. The second time it happened was just this past weekend. I was home alone and I decided to take like a short little afternoon nap. Let me go and just chill in my bed for a little bit. And I dozed off, and it happened again. Someone was banging on my door and it woke me up. And I laid there and I listened, and I didn't hear anybody, and I was like, okay, maybe, it really is someone that knows me. So I get up and I go to my front door and I go to open it, but I noticed two dudes walking down the road, like they were a little ways down, and it kind of freaked me out a bit. I thought, was it them? Were they the ones that was pounding on my door? I can't prove that, but it has happened a couple times, and I have noticed there are more people frequently walking the area. So where I'm actually living right now, this location is kind of like directly in line in front of an overpass where a lot of the traveling homeless will stay. In previous years, when we're doing ministry work, we would take food under this bridge or this overpass to some of the people that were staying there, and they would share their experiences with me about it was loud, it was scary, they didn't know, they really didn't sleep because they didn't know if someone was going to come and try to steal their stuff. And so life on the street is hard, and I've heard stories about it. So where I'm living, I'm trying to drill this point in, is a high traffic homeless area. Even if you're scrolling on social media, you may see videos that are showing the crisis that some of these bigger cities are having with these homeless camps that are popping up. It's like homelessness like we've never seen before. Y'all, the struggle is real. It is so real, and it is putting many good, hardworking Americans out on the street. The conditions of the economy right now are painful, so painful for many of us. A majority of us have less now than we did before the pandemic. We have less money, we have less resources, and inflation is rising. And if you haven't noticed, the standard of living is also declining. The status of middle class, now the middle class is actually identifying as poor or, coming into a poverty level. So I was seeing this in a lot of the articles, and it said we are in the beginning stages of the greatest real estate correction in our history. And 1 out of every 5 children in the US does not have enough food to eat. That breaks my heart. I almost can't even think about it, but we can't ignore it because it's a real problem. And as I was thinking more on this, thinking about my own kids and then even my grandkids, I know that mine are okay, but for many kids, when they go to school, that's the only meal that they get. For many of them, school is like a safe place because when they're outside of school hours, who knows where they're staying or sleeping. And for many, their parents are probably doing the best that they can. I'm not talking about those that are living in drug addiction. I'm talking about those that are actually trying to work, that are trying to provide for their families, and they just can't get ahead. Some people may have to move in with family members, with friends, and join together just to make it work. So many of these kids, they don't have a stable home maybe, or, their parents had to uproot and leave and they're living in their cars or wherever they can find a place. Even the school enrollment forms have changed up a little bit. I noticed when you get to the questionnaire that asks you about, your home situation, it has more options now. That just really makes me sad. But the even sadder reality is many of us can't even help anybody outside of our own family. Like we don't have the extra that we can just give and help. But not all is hopeless. Because for those of us that are believers, our hope and our faith ain't in the government. It's not in our employer, but our faith should rest and lie in Jesus. From my own experience with Jesus, He will provide everything you need. Even in the hardest situations, when I think back, I might have felt the lack a little bit, but He always provided for me. Life's not going to totally be easy, but I have faith and I have hope and I have that reassurance knowing that my Lord and Savior is going to take care of me. He's always made a way for me, and if He's done it before, I know He's going to do it again. So, I want to pray over you. I want to pray this in this video. If you're watching right now, I want to pray a prayer over you. I want to pray that you have favor and blessing from the Lord. I want to pray that the goals and the dreams that I have and that you have are still achievable and attainable, and that we have that hope and reassurance that we can move forward in our dreams and our goals. And I pray for those that are watching right now that have found themselves in a very hard living situation, that you do not waver in your faith, that you continue to trust and rely on Jesus. And as you trust and rely on Him, I pray that God gives you profound wisdom on how to handle your situation. If you're watching this and you have found yourself homeless for any reason, I pray that God has charged His angels to be around you and to go with you wherever you go. And the Lord knows that sometimes life and situations get super hard. So again, I want to say, do not waver in your faith. And I pray that the Lord gives us strength to not waver in our faith. I pray that we continue to trust and rely on the Lord, because Jesus loves me, He loves you, and He will make a way. Until next time, you guys, God bless. I hope you have an amazing day.